Welcome to The Backstory, a podcast from the North Dakota News Cooperative that takes an in-depth look at the stories we're reporting for you. I'm Sabrina Halverson, CEO of the North Dakota News Cooperative. Joining me is Michael Standaert, our lead reporter. Michael, this week's story was headlined, "After Slow Rollout, New Criminal Justice Reentry Programs Begin to Take Shape." And this is one that you had been working on for quite a while because of things with this program had been moving kind of slowly, and you were keeping track. Let's start out by explaining to our listeners what this program is, and then tell us a little bit about why that rollout was slower than initially expected.
Yeah, there were two different bills that came out in the last legislative session. One focused on kind of diverting people from getting into the criminal justice system in the first place, and the other one was to help fund more, reentry programs for people, once they get out of jail or prison, so that they can, be better parts of society, get on with their lives and things like that. So for me, the more interesting one was this diversion program, House Bill 1425, which provided money to Cass, Grand Forks, and Stark counties. And it's to kind of pilot these programs for, what happens when somebody is arrested for or cited for a low-level violation, something where there's no violence involved, there's not like a double crime that's happened. Maybe it's something that can be remedied without having to go through the full judicial process. So that's what they're trying out here, and it's taken a while for these counties to put these things into place because they've had to find providers that could act as kind of a point person or navigator, as some had referred them as, to help facilitate those programs, to find the right people that could go through this. Not all cases would be applicable for these kinds of programs. I mean, in Cass, they're doing it more post-arrest, to where, say a person has some kind of suspended license, citation, or a minor possession offense, they'll still cite them for that, but then if that person goes through all these processes, then that citation or arrest might be wiped. If they go and go through some kind of substance abuse treatment program, or in the case of one person they've had so far that they're trying out is somebody who had a suspended license, and it sounded like, from what they said, that person was just really unsure about how to figure out how to get it back. And in some cases it might be trying to walk that person through or connect them with the Department of Transportation and get them up to the point where they get it back. And maybe that was just a lack of understanding on their part, and then it wouldn't go on their permanent record or something like that. So, this is especially important for maybe younger people who've had violations that, they don't want to have it on their permanent record. And so that's part of this, just trying to make sure that, people aren't getting caught up in the criminal justice system, because what we know is that one arrest can often lead to another one, and people just get kind of just go on a treadmill through those programs. And in the other bill, that was to provide grants to 9 counties across the state to help kind of beef up their programs for reentry of people who've been into jail or prison, and in some of the cases bringing programs more into the jail or the prison, to where it's available to those people right before they in the 3 months or so before they're out, so they can go through something and have that knowledge and have that experience right before they leave. And that's, from what many people have said, this is often a better avenue of success than, say, if they don't have that and they get out and they might be on probation with a probation officer and then have to do some of these programs on the outside. They might have difficulty getting to these programs. They might fall into the same kind of social circles they're involved with before. So this is trying to help set some people up for better success before they leave.
It sounds to me like in these programs, there's a lot of wins. Keeping people out of the criminal justice system, when their offenses have not been violent or, some type of crime like that. A driver's license offense, you don't need to really be through the criminal justice system for that, I would think. But then also There's got to be a benefit to taxpayers as well, because when we're not spending that money there, that's taxpayer money that's also being used more effectively, much more effectively, and you're altering people's lives and getting them off of that treadmill, like you said, where they're stuck in this pattern, and getting them help that they actually need to live these, helpful lives in society.
Mm.
And my question to you is, what kind of a benefit would our communities around North Dakota see? What kind of benefits can they see from these programs when they're functioning as they should be?
Yeah, I mean, you get the sense in talking to the people involved with the jails or different states' attorneys' offices that they think these programs do work. And in a lot of cases, people who are arrested don't necessarily get the kind of help they need. So if they're arrested for some kind of drug prevention or drug possession offense with no other tag along offense, like no DUI, no violent action. A lot of those people don't get the help they need that they might need at that time. And then there's more potential for them to, if they don't get that help, there's more potential that they could repeat those offenses, they get caught again. So by kind of getting in as early as possible, especially for these diversion programs, they're hoping that, yeah, that will get those people help, see that the path they were going down was not the correct way to go, and potentially help them so that they don't have those offenses again, don't potentially get into a wreck or have some kind of action later. So all those kind of preventative measures at the point of contact, that might be the first point of contact that that person's ever had with law enforcement. If they can kind of get this help and a kind of a reprieve, and then there's a lot of belief that these programs do help. They save money. People, a second offense might lead to a felony. The person might end up in jail. So all those things can eventually cascade into costs for the individuals, costs for the communities, and I think there's a lot of support for getting these programs up and running. It's been a little slow because they've had to kind of get together, and I think from hearing from people, it's like, okay, we want to get this right. We don't want to do it the wrong way. They're trying different things. So like Cass is doing it more post arrest. Grand Forks was looking at, how can we do it before a citation is formally issued. And they could do both, they said, but it's just a different approach. And I think just a lot of people are trying to figure out how to best do this.
Yeah, and along those lines, and that's actually what I wanted to talk about next was, as each of our different counties and different areas are figuring these programs out, which in other places, other states, they've seen a lot of success with programs like this, these early intervention programs where you're
Yeah.
changing people's lives. But there are some things that can hold them up, and I'm sure it has to be difficult to implement some of these things. As you were writing this story, which you worked on for quite some time, as you were writing it, what were some things that you were hearing that were kind of stalling the implementation of these programs?
Well, I mean, in some cases, it's been finding, a point of contact at some organization to be the people that kind of facilitate this. If they, if the county or that local jurisdiction doesn't have an extra staff to take over the handling of something like this, so they've kind of farmed it out to different, rehabilitation type service places, other people that deal with cases like this all the time, to have them kind of be the persons that will direct these people to the right places that they need. And then, just working with that, and how the police work with the state's attorney, getting all those things down before they started it has been one of the things that slowed it down. It's not necessarily that it's slowed because it's problematic to put together. It's just from what people are saying, they just want to get it right for that county. So that's been kind of how it's been rolled out so far.
And of course, there are some big differences between the counties around our state. Cass County is very different from other counties. So I'm sure that each county has to figure out what's going to work specifically for their area, right?
Yes. Yeah, and then in the diversion part, they're piloting something. It's this is a new process for them too. So everybody's just trying to get on the same page about how they want to do it in those counties, and then for the grants, it's a little bit different. So they have to find programming that will come in to their jails and their prisons. So just lining all those things up has been a slow process. I think just trying to figure out who's the best who has the best programs to come in and do that type of work. That's one thing that's been an issue. I mean, Cass has both the diversion and the other bill that helps with reentry, and they've had issues because they were going to use the F5 project, but F5 project has had some legal issues recently, legal questions, and that's kind of stalled their progress with that. So they're looking for another potential program to run the grant for reentry.
So we've talked a bit about what the positives are, what the wins are from programs like this, and I'm curious though, are there any downsides that you came across?
Um, I mean, most people are pretty positive about, what these programs can do. I mean, potentially, people are not perfect, so people will potentially violate the law again, even if they go through programs like these. But, from what I've heard from, those who follow these things, it's better to try to do this than to let people get caught up in the criminal justice system and not get help. And there's a lot of cases of crimes that may have been due to addiction or some kind of mental illness. So, okay, how can those people get help with their health? It's a health condition essentially, and not necessarily a moral condition. How
Yeah.
can they get help with those health conditions before it leads them down even a deeper, darker path? I think that's kind of what the aim is of a lot of this. And but yeah, people are fallible, and there's potential that people who go through these programs do commit crimes again later too. But I mean, I think in a lot of these cases they're picking the lowest level cases they can, and seeing, what can we do to help change that person's life so they don't get on that path.
Right. I mean, obviously, if somebody has committed, armed robbery or murder, they don't qualify for these programs.
No, no.
But I really love how you put it just now, speaking about addiction specifically, that is a health issue, not a moral issue. And when
Mm.
it's treated like that as a health issue that can be treated, because it has been very successfully, that keeps people out of committing bigger crimes. And that seems to me like what these programs are aiming to do.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody's has some kind of substance abuse problem, and they've been just caught with it, and they've
Yeah.
not committed a crime other than just having it. There's so many different addictions people have in society that, with substances, it's such a weird spot too, because some people might be addicted to some kind of food or something. I mean, it's there's so many different things that people can be addicted to. You can be addicted to the internet. You can be addicted
Yeah.
to all these things. So trying to help people, find their way to a better, healthier path through that, so that addiction does not lead to criminal action. I think that's something that they hope that these programs can assist with, especially the diversion programs. I mean, the reentry ones are a little bit different. But even in a lot of those cases, people don't necessarily get the help they need after serving time. So, the more that we're able to do that, potentially could help those people live
Yeah.
more, fulfilling and successful lives,
And not end up back into the system.
and not end up back into the system. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a dead end for everyone.
Right. So moving forward, what can we expect from some of these programs?
Well, I think they're looking to beef up, especially the diversion programs now that they're starting to roll out. They're all looking at a couple cases that they're going to work with, and then they're going to ramp up from there. I know in some of these they're going to look at more of these lower level drug offenses, and how those could be potentially treated in this way, and just get people, to programs that could potentially help them instead of, again, instead of running them through the justice system and not doing anything to help that health issue or mental health issue.
And is this a story that you'll keep kind of tracking as these programs move forward?
Yeah, no, I'd be interested in, figuring out whether these have been successful. So it would be good to see, because they'll come up again next legislative session. They'll talk about whether they should be funded more or refunded or just gotten rid of. So it'll be interesting to see, how many cases have gone through, how, have there been any rearrests, this sort of thing. So that will be interesting to see.
I agreed. So we'll keep an eye on that and then maybe follow up on it after the programs have been running and see what happens next legislative session. Thank you, Michael. You can read that story on our website at newscoopnd.org or in one of our local newspaper partners. For the North Dakota News Cooperative, I'm Sabrina Halverson. This has been The Backstory.